GMB's Ed Balls clash with Feargal Sharkey, leaves viewers all saying same thing. Good Morning Britain viewers were left up in arms after the government announced plans to overhaul the Independent Water Commission in place of a new watchdog. Good Morning Britain's Ed Balls clashed with Feargal Sharkey following the new water sector review. On Monday, July 21, ITV News correspondent Louisa James discussed the new report from the Independent Water Commission as the government announces its plans to overhaul the sector in place of a new, more powerful complaints watchdog. These new bodies would replace Ofwat, the Drinking Water Inspectorate, for a new integrated regular in England to combine the functions of Ofwat, as well as taking on the water functions from the Environment Agency and Natural England. To get another opinion on the latest development, the 58-year-old broadcaster and his co-star Kate Garraway welcomed campaigner Feargal Sharkey onto the program. It didn't take long before the Irishman slammed the new plans in a heated on-air debate. Ed began, "Is it all for the birds if they don't renationalize and take it into public control? Or do you think that some of the things in here can make a difference and improve things somewhat, even if they don't go as far as you'd like?" It was at this point the musician made his thoughts clear on the new development as he called for Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Steve Reed to resign. He began, "Sir John Cunliffe, the Independent Water Commissioner, and I agree, he cast the gates of Ofwat and the Environment Agency, EA. We're in total agreement. There are two failed organizations." But then he says he wants to abolish Ofwat. Well, I don't know how you can have that conversation without adding the Environment Agency to that list. And then we have to think of the role the ministers have had in all this for 35 years, because the board of Ofwat, the board of the EA, were personally appointed by the Secretary of State for the Environment. Both of those organizations operate under guidance issued by the Secretary of State for the Environment, Steve Reed. The day he came to office, he could have sacked both those boards and reissued the guidance and ordered both those organizations to proactively enforce the law. I'm afraid for John because I think there are some good things in what he said. But at the heart of this, he believes this is an issue of public trust. And for me, that blatantly ignores that this is an issue about corporate greed, manipulation, profiteering, financial engineering, PS $74 billion of debt, and PS $84 billion of dividends that these companies have ram-raided. Kate then asked the activist who will pay to correct the sector and put the water companies on the right track, to which he revealed, "You're paying for it anyway. This is the curious thing." I'm quoting the government this morning. There's PS $104 billion private sector investment, but I'm challenging them right now. There is no private sector investment. Shareholders are not putting their hands in their pockets for that money. That's why your bills have just gone up 304,050%. The chief executive for Northumberland Water just blew the gaff in Parliament 2 months ago. Now 85% of that money is coming from the bill increases. In the short term, it's coming out of our bank accounts, and we're certainly going to pay for it in the long term. He concluded, "I think the thing has become an utter shambles." The idea that on Friday, July, it was announced that 65% increase in serious pollution incidents. There is no pollution control anymore in this country, and I think Steve has got to reflect very carefully on the role he's played in the last 12 months. I think he should go. It didn't take long before fans flooded to X, formerly known as Twitter, to share their thoughts online, with many throwing support behind the Undertones frontman. One user penned, "Feargal is totally right in all he says. This report could be 3 feet thick. It won't change a thing. We, the public, will still bear the cost. The bosses and shareholders will still get rich on us." Another agreed, "Feargal is right that there are ways of changing the status without it costing anything, But that means upsetting a lot of wealthy folk, which governments don't like to do. It is time for the public to take control, as it benefited the public and councils/regions over profit. A third echoed, "It's all true what he says." Nothing will change and sewage dumping has gone up 60% since Steve Reed took control, as a fourth cheered. What would we do without Feargal? Britain has never been short of fiery debates, but Friday morning's exchange between host Ed Balls and musician-turned-environmental activist Feargal Sharkey had viewers glued to their screens, and then flocking to social media to say the exact same thing. What started as a conversation about Britain's growing water pollution crisis spiraled into a verbal joust that left audiences divided, entertained, and in some cases frustrated by what they saw as a classic talk-over-the-expert moment. The build-up. The segment was billed as a special debate on Britain's rivers, a timely topic given the national outrage over sewage dumping and corporate water company profits. Ed Balls, former politician and seasoned broadcaster, was set to co-host alongside Susanna Reid. The producers wanted balance, an activist, an industry representative, and the host to keep the conversation flowing. Feargal Sharkey, former lead singer of The Undertones, has become one of the UK's most outspoken defenders of rivers and clean water. Known for his articulate, passionate takedowns of regulators and corporations, he doesn't mince words. GMB likely knew he would bring fire, and he did. The clash begins. From the start, Sharkey came in armed with statistics. He pointed out that last year alone, raw sewage was pumped into UK rivers and seas for millions of hours. He highlighted executive bonuses in the water industry, while communities faced health risks and environmental damage. But Ed Balls, perhaps drawing from his years in politics, played devil's advocate. He questioned whether Sharkey's outrage was overlooking progress being made, or whether his blame was too one-sided. "Isn't it fair to say," Ed pressed, "that government and regulators are taking steps, that investment is being promised, and that this isn't quite as black and white as you painted?" Sharkey's eyebrows arched, his voice sharpened. "Ed, with respect, we have heard this line for 30 years. 30 years of broken promises while rivers die. 30 years of billions paid out to shareholders instead of fixing pipes. And you're asking me if I should be patient. Forgive me, but people are sick of excuses." That was the spark. Tension rises. What followed was television gold, if slightly chaotic. Balls interjected with counterpoints, trying to keep the discussion broad. Sharkey, in turn, accused him of minimizing the crisis. At one point, Sharkey's exasperated tone broke through. "You can't PR your way out of raw sewage in people's back gardens, Ed. This is not a theoretical debate. It's filth in our rivers, in our lives." Ed Balls leaned forward, perhaps slipping back into politician mode, insisting Sharkey was being too absolutist. Susanna Reid tried to step in, but the two men locked horns, voices rising above each other. It wasn't angry in the sense of shouting, but it was sharp, relentless, and bristling with tension. Viewers at home immediately latched onto the dynamic. Ed the skeptical host, Sharkey the frustrated campaigner, both refusing to back down. Social media reacts. As soon as the segment aired, social media lit up. Twitter, or X, exploded with commentary, and remarkably, a single theme kept surfacing. Why is Ed Balls interrupting Feargal Sharkey? Let the man speak. That was the chorus across countless posts. Viewers seemed to agree that Sharkey, with his expertise and passion, should have been given more space to finish his arguments without constant interjections. One user wrote, "Ed Balls is doing that classic politician thing, trying to sound balanced while drowning out the person who actually knows what they're talking about." Just let Feargal talk.